ज़्यादा गलत तो नहीं है.
Well, we did think that wrestlers going on strike and then the formation of an oversight committee would mean that maybe just maybe we could actually move forward in terms of bettering the stock or bettering the well-being and the welfare of the wrestlers. Yeah. But as it turns out, the story has taken a fresh new twist with two wrestlers in particular speaking out against the oversight committee and how it was formed and the lack of involvement from the part of the wrestlers. Harshit, you were actually just working on that story for television. How about you just fill us in on the details a tad?
So it's interesting that at such a short notice after the formation of the select committee, the wrestlers have now taken to social media and have already expressed their displeasure and discontent with this committee. Now, what's really happened over here? We all know that first the IOA committee was formed. It's a 7-member committee. Remember, that's headed by Mary Com. Now, what happened recently was that the sports minister Anurag Thakur had said that we will also be forming an oversight committee that will be looking into the day-to-day affairs, and Brij Bhushan Charan Singh was asked to step aside.
Correct.
Meanwhile, this committee was tasked to file a report inside 4 weeks' time. Now, what's happened over here is that Bajrang Punia and Vinesh Fogart, the two wrestlers that Shane was just alluding to, have now taken to Twitter and said that this 5-member panel that's been constituted, or the select committee as it's being officially called, they're saying that we were nowhere in consultation with regards to the formation of the committee and we should have been considered. Now, what have the wrestlers done here? They've put out their thoughts very clearly on social media, but they've now asked the Prime Minister to intervene. They've also asked Home Minister Amit Shah to intervene. What do they say? We were assured by the government that there will be intervention and there will be a solution to this problem, but where is the consultation?
Exactly. In fact, if you go over what Bajrang said, and I'm using translate because he put his tweet out in Hindi, he said that we were assured that we would be consulted before the oversight committee was formed. It is very sad that we were not even consulted before the formation of this committee, which does allude in many ways to more broken promises, because they were quite frankly told that, look, you will be a part of this process, and unfortunately that hasn't in fact happened. In fact, you have two wrestlers who have said very clearly that, look, we weren't in fact consulted at all, and so therefore, what do you say about this entire thing? In fact, both Vinesh and Bajrang put out pretty much the exact same tweet.
Yes,
and tagged the same three people.
So it's the same sort of grouse that the wrestlers have right now. Yes, they've called off the protest. Let's also remind you that they've called off the protest only because they were given assurances by first the IOA committee, which is being led by Mary Com, and then of course the huge round of talks, the marathon talks, if I can say, that they had with the sports minister at his residence. Remember, back-to-back days we saw the wrestlers in consultation with the sports minister, and after which they were given assurances that there will be a resolution to the whole problem. Remember, there was a lot of these complaints that were from ranging from, of course, sexual harassment that has been alleged to misappropriation of funds, the high-handedness of the wrestling federation, in particular Brij Bhushan Charan Singh. So all of these things put together, there was assurances being given, and then apart from the IOA committee, which is a 7-member committee headed by Mary Com, an oversight committee was also formed to look into the daily affairs, which also, by the way, is being led by Mary Com. And it's not just Mary Com, there are also certain questions being asked about the constituent members of these two committees, because there seems to be an overlap over here, because you see Mary Com leading the two committees, and also you see Yogeshwar Dutt as well also present in both the committees. Now, since we're speaking of the oversight committee, and very quickly let me just talk you through the other members of the committee, because these doubts that have been raised by Yogeshwar Dutt and Vinesh Fogart are pertaining to the members of the committee. The other members include Trupti Murugunde, who, remember, is the Mission Olympic Cell member. You also have ex-TOPS CEO Rajagopalan as well, who is a part of this committee. And the fifth member of the committee happens to be the former Sports Authority of India Executive Director, and that's Radhika Shriman. So these are the members of the committee. When you look at them very closely, yes, of course, they're champions athletes as well. There's an ex-top CEO. There's also somebody like Mary Com, Yogeshwar Dutt, an administrator there as well in the ex-top CEO. So it looks like a committee which can get the job done, and also, more importantly, file that crucial report before the sports ministry in about 4 weeks time. That's the time that's been given to this committee. But the wrestlers clearly unhappy with that, with the whole way that this has transpired. Their main grouse being that they are not consulted. Perhaps, I don't know, and Shane, if you can cast your thoughts over here. Is consultation really the way that we could have looked at a resolution in this whole scenario, and why exactly is this? Because you need to be very clear. Then, if you ask me, the wrestlers haven't really pinpointed what's the problem with this committee.
Correct.
Are you just looking for consultation just for namesake, or do you have certain names? Do you have certain reservations with regards to the present constituent members of the committee? Because none of those things have been mentioned in those tweets.
And see, that's the thing. For us, I mean, it's easy for us, and it'll be easier for us to stand and speculate because, quite frankly,
Yeah.
we don't really have all of the information.
Yeah.
So, it's quite possible, and I can understand if people feel that, hey, you know what, these guys did get voted as they wanted, and, Brijbhushan Singh was removed from power, and, it should actually be a new start for them, a fresh start for them, and maybe they shouldn't really be asking for so many things. I do understand that perspective, but if they were promised that there's going to be consultation and, the way forward will include your opinions, then it would have made more sense to actually have done that and given it to them, not give them another reason to speak out against you at a time when they actually went and sat down in protest at Jantar Mantar.
But when I look at this whole situation, Shane, if you ask me, again, when I look at these tweets, when I look at the language being used over there, yes, of course, very clearly being said that we are not being consulted. But you need to be more vocal and clear over here. These are mixed signals, if you ask me, from the wrestlers. Again, were they promised that there will be certain members in those committees and they weren't then named? Is that the case? Well, we don't know. But wrestlers also not clearly pointing out what exactly their reservation
correct.
is over there with the regards to the government. Well, as we're given to understand, did form this committee, and there was nothing being said yesterday, by the way, about it. So you thought that this was well perceived by the wrestlers as well.
Correct.
But just about 24 hours after the announcement of the committee, you now have the wrestlers saying that, listen, we're not happy and we need to be consulted. Whether that's a promise that was made to them by the ministry, we don't know. But the wrestlers also, while they've taken to social media, they've not put this out very clearly.
Maybe, just maybe, they feel like there's no need to be discussing this with the stakeholders. Maybe the reason they chose to escalate this was, I think we're having some technical issues here, and we're back now, alright. So maybe the reason they're choosing to not make these things too public as things stand is because they want to actually escalate it to the next level, and they feel that maybe that's the only resolution. Maybe there's a breakdown in trust. Again, we don't unfortunately have all the answers, and what happened when they were sitting on protest is that we were given very clear, concise reasonings by the wrestlers themselves. It was very, very evident. Right now, maybe we're not getting that because there's a lack of trust. We don't really know, but what we do know is this is still a story that we haven't really heard the last of, and it does seem like there will still be a few teething problems for the WFI or the formation of a new WFI and the oversight committee that will actually be overlooking the makings or the workings of this particular body, among others.
But on the other things, what this does is, like Shane said, that this definitely is not the end of this whole saga, the wrestlers versus Brijbhushan Sharan Singh. What this commenting on the sidelines, what this does, if you ask me, is it sort of affects the way the whole thing is being investigated. You can pose a problem. These comments can often act as a hindrance when you're casting doubts on the functioning and when you're casting doubts on the constituents or the constituent members of the committee. These things do tend to affect the notion and often the narrative, I would say. This is from the wrestler standpoint. If you ask me, you don't want this right now, since now there's not just one, but there's two committees that are looking into this whole episode. Well, if you had reservations, maybe you could have again approached the sports minister, and perhaps it could have been done yesterday when this committee was announced, but nothing on those lines happened yesterday. But we'll have to wait and watch how this story transpires, how it unfolds. Definitely not the last turn and the twist that one could have anticipated in this whole saga. But we here at Sports Today, as we've done that, we've been on top of the story, and we'll continue to keep you updated with regards to everything that's happening. For now, that's Shane Dias. My name is Harshit Ahuja. Thank you so much for joining us for this update. And in case you haven't already done so, do like, share, and subscribe to Sports Today.
And tap the bell icon. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well for all of your daily sporting content. Bye bye.